Welcome to Scott's Garden. This is week 2. I'm going to talk a little bit about lighting, transplanting, and also show the progress of the plants that were planted. We'll see how things are progressing and see what kind of things maybe I could do different next year. So I moved 2 of the containers into a separate bedroom so that they could get more light. I do have good light for about 11 hours a day. I'll show you the inside. So these are the larger 4-inch pots that I planted with flowers. You can see these are a little bit spindly, showing that they could probably use some more light. Also, a little slow growing on these multi-seeded pellets that contain petunias. These are the geraniums. They're doing better. Again, a little spindly. Could probably use some more light. Here's the box with vegetables. Over here I have artichokes. So 4 out of 6 have sprouted. Here I have the tomatoes, and they're doing fairly well. Except for this one hasn't, nothing there. And then finally the peppers just sprouted within the last 2 days. So what I've also done is looked to see how much water they need. So before they sprouted, I was keeping mostly the top to where the seeds were, to keep them moist, and they're also in this box, which is very humid. Then starting 2 days ago, I started also looking. I'm going to start watering from underneath. You can see I just have a little bit of water in there to keep it just coming in through the holes in the bottom of the containers. That way we can keep the seeds, start training them to take their water from the roots up. So start as the roots are growing, I'll begin watching as the tops of the soil start to turn light brown, noting that it's getting dry and they need to have more water. And then you can also see these where you're starting to get, these were the first leaves, or that come out when it's just starting, and you can see here starting to get the true leaves that will stay as the plants grow. And so these are starting to get where, when the true leaves are there, soon they're going to start needing some nourishment from a different source. The seed will have expended its energy in growing and germinating the plant to now needing some type of fertilizer. And we'll do that with a water-based fertilizer fed through when I put the water in the bottom. Here are my 2 smaller containers that I had the pellets planted in. You can see there's lots of moisture in the box, and a lot of them are starting to grow. These are flowers, and so they're a lot slower in germinating and growing. I'm always rotating the box around so that they get sunlight, and switching it with the other side, making sure that they get a lot of sunlight. The vegetables have done really well. Again, this is an experiment in seeing how they grow, and to whether, I've planted them probably a little too early. We will evaluate that as it goes on, and seeing how I can use these plants in the garden this year and getting them really established. Again, a little, not so spindly, but a little bit, and that probably need more sunlight. So next year our experiment will be using the grow lights. Again, you can see that these are starting to get their true leaves. So again, I'm going to have to look at feeding these some fertilizer and also possibly transplanting. So we'll take a look at transplanting, as well as I took these outside, and we'll go look at that, of how to let them get a little adjusted to the sunlight slowly as we progress through the growing season until we get into the garden, so that they can get used to having some sunlight. Okay, you can see the snow still here outside, but it is a nice spring day. It's March, and it's about 43 degrees out, and so whenever the temperature is above 40, I'm gonna bring them out for about an hour to let them get some sunlight. This is kind of experimenting to see how this might help them I did leave the lids on. That is going to block some of the UV rays and other things, but we'll see how this might help it. I'm going to go ahead and plant one of the plants in a bigger container. So as you can see, this plant has a lot of roots. It's a squash, so it's probably, again, planted early, but I wanted to see how big I could grow them indoors before going outside to give them a head start in this Idaho weather. As you can see, the purpose of using the pellets is so that the roots will be able to grow out from the pellet container, this little cloth stuff, and be able to then grow bigger instead of just wrapping around a very little tight bulb that you might get in those little pony packs. So what I'm going to do is take some dirt and put in here. What I'm using is a potting mix. Now that the seed has germinated, we're going to use potting soil, and this potting soil is Miracle Grow, and it contains fertilizer. So just going to loosely put the plant in there and pack the dirt around it so that the roots are all have lots of room. Plant it down inside so that it gets some growing room for the roots and the root ball down there. So I'm going to just fill this full of dirt and then give it water to moisten it up. And again, start feeding this plant and the others that I'll transplant into a bottom feeding type of system. So we'll just give it some nice water. I'll let that soak in, and then I'll probably have to top it off a little bit more dirt. But that way, that's looking like a really nice plant that's gonna, here's another plant that's got the roots coming out of it. It actually grew two, so both seeds germinated. So if you want, you can look at trying to use both of them, or you could just plant them and maybe snip off the other one. So I'm going to go ahead with 2 pots. I'm just kind of broke off the outer layer of fabric here, and then I'm going to gently pull them apart as soft as I can, slow, to keep to not disturb roots. A little bit of the fabric there. So I'm going to go ahead and plant one in that pot and one in this pot, and I'll do the same, filling them up with dirt and that. And then also, don't forget to mark what's in there so you know. And then, I didn't show this the last time, but this is what I used to mark where all my peat pellets were in the container. Thank you for joining me here at Scott's Garden. This week we talked about light, the need for maybe having more light than I've been using. Also about transplanting once you get root growth, especially on the pellets, so that they'll have a bigger container to grow in. And then once they get their true leaves, to start watering using some kind of liquid fertilizer, or like in this case, using a potting soil with some fertilizer in it. We also got to take a look at the growth that's happened over the last 2 weeks, and we'll continue to watch it grow and get ready for the spring. Have a good night.